Hello and welcome to the Content Show, episode 15. Who would have thought we'd make it? This week we're talking about quantity versus quality. And do you want the bad news? You need both, really you do. You need to be posting a lot and it needs to be really good. And this is the thing about being a branded content publisher as opposed to a marketer or an advertising campaign, is you've got to do it really well all the time. There's no shortcuts, but the good news is as you do more and more content, you get better and better at it. Gary Vaynerchuk posts something like 64 times a day, and he reckons that if you're a brand, say like FedEx, you should be posting thousands of times a day. But it doesn't really explain why I muted Gary Vaynerchuk on LinkedIn, because he was so annoying. So this is where the quality comes in, and it's really important to get it right, to be sensitive to your audience, to entertain, delight and inform without annoying them. Well, not too much anyway. And don't despair. Hubspot says if you're posting between 2 and 4 times a week, you'll start to see returns from that. Also this week we're speaking to Sherry Wong from Next 10 Ventures. It's a venture capital group focused on the creator ecosystem based in LA and Singapore. Now I spoke to one of her colleagues, Ben Grubbs, in LA a few weeks back, and Sherry's been talking to me about the rise of the personal brand. We've both decided that the use of the term influencer is a bit negative, a bit pejorative these days.
I think individuality in general is highly valued, regardless of kind of like what the context is. I think that's why you see even someone who is part of a corporate brand, over time, you'll see that their own social media will pick up because people are following them for their opinion on things. And so you see that people who are part of traditionally larger companies are also spinning off and doing their own YouTube channels.
Personal media brand versus traditional media brand. Well, the chips keep falling on the side of the personal media brand. So we were looking at John Krasinski.
I'm John Krasinski, and now...
What the heck? Em, what are you doing? I'm John Krasinski.
He's Jack Ryan on the Amazon TV series and was Jim in The Office back in 2005 to 2013. Great series. So he started during lockdown a show called Some Good News, and he made it at home, very low production values. He's stuck at home with his wife, Emily Blunt, and their couple of kids, and hosting their friends via Zoom. Of course, all their friends are movie stars. Anyway, they got millions of subscribers, millions of views, and all of a sudden there's a bidding war to go and buy this channel, and John's got to go back to work. He's going to go back to filming soon. So he sold the channel, and there's this enormous backlash. He sold it to CBS, which is the most watched TV network in America. As soon as it becomes a corporate, a traditional media brand, then the fans lose interest and it loses its authenticity. It's really fascinating to see how this is evolving. Now, over to the Brains Trust. Hello and welcome back to the Content Show. It's me, Simon Kearney, and I'm with David Austin and Arta Akhmetsianov for our regular weekly discussion about all things content marketing. And today we're talking about talking about quantity versus quality. And my viewpoint is that bad luck, you need both. You need lots of content and it has to be really awesome. What do you guys think?
Well, you're right. I mean, well, let's reference one of the pieces that we talked about in Confidential this week, and that's Gary Vaynerchuk, you know, the famous content marketer. He's talking about the level of the volume that he's talking about. He personally posts like 64 pieces of content a day, and he talks about a big multinational like FedEx should be having 1,000 pieces of content a day. That's his recommendation. He admits that right now no one's doing that level of content. So I mean, yeah, if you're talking about 1,000 pieces a day, that's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, but the thing with Gary Vaynerchuk is I don't see his 64 pieces a day because I did follow him on LinkedIn, but it was so annoying. I basically muted his posts. Well, so and could go the other way. Could go wrong for you.
Yeah, there is I mean, I think there's a risk of turning people off, but his argument is that most people don't see the majority of things that you post, so that out of that 64 he expects his followers to see 1 or 2 pieces a week, that the rest are you're just missing it. So.
I think there's an element of truth in that, but this is where the quality comes in. It has to be very well put together and very carefully put together in a way that's not going to put off your audience, not going to annoy them, because it should be seamless.
And I think also maybe when he talks about 64 pieces, that probably doesn't mean that it's like 64 articles, right? It's
Right.
just pieces of content. So I'm sure half of it might be essentially like what we usually recommend for the clients. You just utilize one story and then just tell it in multiple ways. So probably some of these pieces might include just a social post with a small blurb. Some of them might be just like a illustration or a GIF. Something is basically a transcription from the video, etc. So I guess again, like it's more maybe focusing on the stories and then just trying to maximize the exposure by telling it via multiple mediums, and then hoping that some of them will hit the audiences, and then just promoting selectively.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're doing. For instance, at Click to View. So like we're talking about quality versus quantity now on the content show. That's coming out tomorrow morning in our Content Confidential newsletter. Actually, sorry, I'm getting it back to front because we're pre-recording this, audience. Sorry to let you in on that. So it's going to come out in our Content Confidential newsletter first. Then you'll see it on the content show, which we're talking about now, although we're pre-recording one day before. After which we're going to write a blog about it. There's going to be an illustration on the same topic, a GIF illustration. We're going to use that GIF illustration to advertise the blog on Facebook and Google, and then we're going to create a carousel of the story to repost onto our social channels. So this one piece of content, for instance, on my LinkedIn, might result in 5 or 6 posts on my LinkedIn, and then more on the company page, more on the Facebook page, and so on.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that proves Archer's point. I mean, that is the way to view it. You have to think of your key stories, and then you can disperse it in many different ways.
Yeah, but the challenge is clients out there convincing you to take this on and to realize the idea of using every content opportunity as many ways as possible to populate your digital and social channels.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like his point about the B2B marketers, because the question was that, of course, B2B marketing is a bit different from B2C marketing, and a lot of those brands that are dealing with enterprise clients, they are sometimes a bit concerned about sharing some of these case studies or some of the work because it might affect their competitiveness, etc. And he basically says what we've been telling our clients all the time, that you have to think as a publisher versus thinking as an advertiser. So again, focusing on the industry and the benefits versus just talking about yourself all the time. It's more about the content at scale, right? So sometimes you need to invest something upfront, but then it will pay off. Like for us, we build this studio, right? We build certain workflows. Maybe we invest in certain equipment or some software. But then once these initial investments are kind of settled, then basically just rip off the efficiency that you invest in, and then all the content is created much faster and it looks and feels the same. So I guess that's the trade-off. So you have to be strategic about the goals that you want to hit in the beginning. Again, probably establish some clear metrics and benchmarks. Then invest in the workflows and already then start creating. But then again, analyze, track everything, see how it performs, A/B test, and adjust accordingly.
I think that's the thing to remember is you get much better as you go down this path. The more content you create, the better you get, the more efficient you get, the more return you get from the content as well over time. The less it costs you per piece of content. And I mean, I think Gary Vaynerchuk's example is a bit extreme. Hubspot says that if you post 2 to 4 times a week, you will start seeing returns pretty quickly. So you don't need to post 64 or 1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good if you can, but there are some good returns to be made just by a regular habit of posting content. Let's get into the branded content picks of the week, and we've got an awesome selection this week. Starting with a piece from Microsoft about a musician who's used the Microsoft AI and a camera on the roof of a hotel to create foyer music that derives its inspiration using the AI from the events happening outside. This is amazing. It's really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. When I saw it, the first thing that made me wonder is when can a normal person play around with that technology? It looks really fun. And then I think this is kind of the way things are going, where artists will use this tech to set up kind of art pieces that will then have a life of their own.
Yeah, I remember talking to a graphic designer from the States once who did this with a website, and it was an artist's retreat, and he set up a tidal monitor, and then he created a font for the website, and the font moved up and down as the tide went up and down at this artist's retreat in something like Newfoundland or somewhere like that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's cool to see that the most interesting stuff always happens on the intersection of art and technology, and of course it's a creative outlet for the artists, but also, I mean, that was her first time using AI, and that's a very interesting use case.
Absolutely. Now the next video is even more awesome. This is probably one of my favorite pieces of branded content ever. Hyundai gets a couple of Chelsea footballers, dresses them up as sales reps in one of their new car showrooms, and just films what happens next with their teammates sort of talking in their ear through an earpiece. This is hilarious. I've just been watching episodes of The Office, and it's a bit like that.
Yeah, it's a very fun way of promoting the brand, but also you're kind of making the footballers also get out of their comfort zone. And I was very glad to see, because I saw some similar videos before, but I was glad to see that it was not just two male footballers, but they took one person from the female team and one person from the male team and kind of paired them up and made them really struggle. So it was funny. I really liked one where one of the customers asked, "Can I have this? Like, what colors this car can be in?" And they said, "It comes only in blue. What if I want red? You have to buy and paint it red." So,
yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I think hopefully they can keep their day jobs as footballers, because that's not the line for them.
Yeah, they were terrible salespeople, really bad. And funnily enough, their teammates in the sort of the back room, speaking them through the microphone, seem to know more about sales than they did.
Yeah, well, it's easier when you're the one watching safely behind closed doors.
Exactly.
It's a lot different when you're out there on the front lines.
That's true. So the next one is Boone Adam. This is an animation. So Arto, I'm going to let you talk to this. All about access gates. And I've got to admit, these things terrify me. I have a phobia about getting. I did get caught in one once years ago, and ever since I sort of rush through them out of fear.
Yeah, I think everyone has a painful memory from their childhood or young years that they were caught. But yeah, this is a very nice animation. Again, talking about the rise of mixed media that basically combines 2D and 3D animation to showcase the security gates, how they can be really, really sleek, very fast, efficient, and secure. And again, like there is no voiceover. It basically shows you the use cases via just the visuals, and it's very elegant, and the music also kind of catchy. So very, very nice work from this Dutch brand that it was the first time I've heard about them. So now I know that there are some cool security gates out there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very simple explanation. I mean, you watch it and you're absolutely clear on what they offer and what's good about it without a single word spoken.
Next one is Baidu, the Chinese Google. And this one's all about logistics and self-driving or autonomous cars. It's really interesting. The only question I have is the wheel seems to move around a lot. So I wonder if you'd get car sick if they were ferrying human passengers around.
Well, that's why they're autonomous, right? No people, no people to avoid the sickness. But I think it's interesting because, for example, the more famous U.S. counterparts, Google, is obviously more famous for their kind of street camera autonomous vehicles. But here you see the usage in B2B space, which, as we all know, usually is a bit less known, but usually that makes more money. And of course, I think in China, the internal market is huge, and they're always looking for ways to implement new technology to optimize the processes. I think especially during these COVID times, anything that can limit the human contact and increase the safe distancing safety measures, that is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final one is Bellaria and Zendesk. Bellaria is a Spanish company, and this is a customer case study, which is it can be considered a sort of fairly straightforward piece of content. They've done a lovely job of this, but it is also that it's a fundamental piece of B2B content in particular, and so it's good to be sharing a really good example like this.
And also a good example that's maybe during these days, even if you don't have an opportunity to shoot someone on camera, you can make still a 60-second case study just using simple graphics, because there is no live footage. There is just the photo of the chief experience officer of the featured company at the back. But otherwise, you just tell the story with simple graphics. And this is obviously optimized for social media because it's a vertical format. So again, good use case and good practices from the brand.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And then since we're talking about content at scale, the user problem was that a good problem to have their customer engagement went up 500% due to the COVID-19 restrictions, and I guess people being more interested and concerned about their shipments.
Yeah, I think they said like in 1 month they got something like the amount of customer interactions was almost like a 1 year worth.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big scale to help with, and a nice case study for Zendesk.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at it and I actually thought to myself, I wonder if we might use Zendesk for our website. So it's obviously doing its job. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank
you very much.
Have a nice weekend.
Oh, lovely weekend. Yeah. It's actually reopening, right? So everyone will head to pubs and cafes and walks and swimming pools.
That's right. We're entering phase 2 in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Stay
lots
safe,
of fun. Yeah.
Excellent.
Let's see if we survive till the next week's show.
Yeah, I'm staying indoors. I'm waiting for the next incubation period, just in case.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, and thank you for watching. This was episode 15 of the content show, Who Would Have Thought We'd Make It? And I'm Simon Kearney, and we've just been speaking to David Austin and Artur Akhmetsyanov. Thank you very much.